You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Angle here. Hope you can hear me okay. Hope everybody's doing well right here for another college sports huddle. Hope all is well where you are. And I'm not sure why we got a little bit of a issue with our recording here. Let me check some. I got to check the connection here. Bear with me. Not happy with the. Not really happy with our reception right now, so bear with me while I try to fix this. Not sure what's going on here, guys. I'm going to pop out. Bear with me 1 second while I try to fix this. We're going to talk some college sports tonight. If I can get myself situated here. I do not like the feed that we have. I don't like the way my face is frozen here either. Oh, what do we got? What's going on here, guys? Better? Worse? All right, let's stop the nonsense here. Turn this off. Welcome to the College Sports Huddle. Sorry about the little bit of issues there at the beginning. Hopefully everything's okay. Let me know how the feed and the audio is, because it still feels like it's just a little bit off. And I may pop out of here and pop back in a second. So we'll see how that goes. We may have to take a little quick break, but we'll see how that goes. Not liking this at all. Anyway, we're going to talk some college basketball tonight. We'll get into the rankings. We'll get into some bracketology as we have been. Some news around the league. Purdue hangs on to number one despite losing to Indiana over the weekend. Red hot Indiana with under boy, this thing is jumping all over the place. What is going on here? I apologize for our feed tonight, guys. And I think I might need to restart this. All right, how we got it now? Any better? Let's hope. All right, what else are we going to talk about? We'll look at some coaches in trouble, teams in trouble, and we'll also get into some college football news. Tommy Rees going to Alabama. We'll talk a little bit about the Brian Ferentz issues at Iowa and his odd new contract. And, you know, is nepotism alive and well? And is this the worst case of it that we've seen in college football? I hope not. Guys, bear with me because I'm going to restart my computer and I'll be right back. I promise you, with more of the show. Please do not adjust your sets. We'll be right back after this message. I'm trying, guys. I don't know what's going on. There's my green screen. How's that look? We're having all kinds of technical difficulties tonight. We're going to be on vacation. It's about time for one, apparently, right? So my computer is like really not working well, and I really apologize. Yeah, there's our screen back up, but we still don't have good audio. I don't know what the deal is here, guys. I really apologize. I'm going to switch my internet feed and see if that helps at all. Oh. All right, we're back. Don't think we're better than ever, though. This is a bad feed tonight. I really have got to apologize. I'm not even sure how long we're going to go tonight. It's really unfortunate because I got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of good college sports to talk about. And leave your comments. I see we got some viewers here. And again, I apologize for the bad feed we have tonight. I could tell that my audio is off a little bit, and it's even throwing me off as I look at myself. Let's dive into some college football, and then we'll do the best we can, guys. If this gets really bad, somebody tell me it's really bad, and we'll cut it short. I'll be going on vacation, by the way, starting tomorrow. I will not be back until the 22nd. So next week, College Sports Huddle will be a little bit you think this broadcast is weird? Wait till next week. I am boat tripping. Carlos will be heading to Florida tomorrow and sailing Friday. We'll try to do some shows. The Friday Are You Serious show with Carlos. We will not have our normal show, but I might come out and try to do a few minutes. We'll see. I'll post some stuff to Facebook so you guys know what's going on. The Sunday Stream of Consciousness, the same thing. Even these shows that I do for Northeast Streaming Sports and Let's Talk Sports will be a little iffy this week, but we'll try to do something each day. And as I said, next Wednesday, I'll try to get into do a little bit next Wednesday night. So it looks like our audio might be getting better. So again, I apologize for our technical difficulties. I just don't know where. There it goes again. I can tell it's off. Gosh, guys. Somebody give me a comment on what they're seeing. I'd love to know what they're seeing. We're going to reboot this here again. We're still trying to get some better picture here. I don't know what the problem is here. This is the first time I've had this issue in forever. But it is the hazards of live podcasting. Let's dive into college basketball. I know I said I'd do that about 8 minutes ago, and hopefully we're getting to where we can dive into it. Let's take a quick look at the polls. We'll look at some scores from this week. Purdue stays number one, 38 after losing to Indiana this weekend. Houston moves up a spot to number two. The first place votes are spread out amongst four teams this week, with 38 going to Purdue, 22 to Houston, 1 to Alabama, 1 to Arizona. Probably your four number ones right now. We'll talk about bracketology a little bit. We'll look at Joe Lunardi's stuff here. So the audio's good. You know, maybe it's just what I'm seeing here in the studio. It's bad, man. It's really just not up to snuff tonight. I'm not, and again, I apologize for that. Carlos is seeing it good. That's good. Seeing a lot worse. That's not a ringing endorsement, Carlos. Can Purdue keep this going? Well, again, small bump in the road on Sunday against Indiana. But Indiana's been playing really good basketball under Mike Woodson, as I said, I've said for a couple of weeks on the show. So good job out of them. They've moved up to 18th in this poll, by the way, up 3 spots this week. The rest of the top 25, Texas moves up 5 spots, still playing great basketball, despite, the internal issues that they've had going on there. I'll get to your comments here in a second too, guys. Tennessee falls 4 after losing a tough game this weekend in the SEC to, who did they lose to? Oh, Auburn. They lost to Auburn. I'm sorry, they beat Auburn. They lost to Florida. At Florida. Florida is kind of an up and down mediocre team. Not a good loss, but this is still one of Rick Barnes' best defensive team I can remember Rick Barnes having maybe anywhere. Got to put the ball in a bucket, though. This game was in the 40s on the Auburn-Tennessee game was in the 40s. I said UCLA, maybe I didn't. Up to number 7, playing really good basketball under Mitch Cronin. Virginia falls 2 spots. The ACC, guys, not so good. A few teams ranked, but the Big Ten's better. Big Ten's better. They got 2 teams in the top 10. I'm sorry, top 25 in the Big Ten, but they got a deeper teams. I think I know what the problem is here now that I think about it. I'm going to try something here. I forgot to say I have my green screen on. I wonder if that's causing every bit of problems that I had. I'm going to be so mad if that's the case. I think it is. Oh, guys, I'm so sorry. All right. Anyway, back to the top 25. We'll get back on track here. Very disjointed show tonight. I apologize. Kansas, 18-5 now, back on the winning track. They dropped a spot, though, to number 9. Marquette has lost already this week. They had moved into the top 10 the first time that I can remember. Shaka Smart really has this team playing well, but a tough loss. They got beat badly here just a couple of nights ago. We'll look at some of those scores. They lost to UConn, 87-72, just the other night. Who else we got here we want to take a look at? Iowa State playing really good basketball, up 2 to number 11. Kansas State starting to kind of show some wear and tear, and lack of depth that they may have is starting to kind of show up. They dropped 5 spots to number 12. Xavier playing good basketball, 19-5 in the Big East overall, but they're in the Big East. They're up to 13. Baylor hit the little road bump in the road. They fall 3 spots to 14. St. Mary's and Gonzaga are 15-16. St. Mary's beat Gonzaga this past weekend. And I have told you that I believe St. Mary's will come out ahead in that Western Athletic Conference or West Coast Conference over Gonzaga come tournament time. And St. Mary's will be seeded higher than Gonzaga come the NCAA tournament. TCU, one of my dark horses, falling on some hard times recently with some injuries. They fall to number 17. Indiana up 3 spots, as I said, playing really good basketball in the Big Ten. We'll go around the conferences here in a little bit. Miami, the U. Don't have my hat out. Up to number 19 now, 18-5 under Jim Larranger, doing well. Lots of NIL money at play there, as we all know. Providence falls 3 to 7 to 20. UConn trying to right the ship after falling from number 2 to almost out of the poll. They moved up 3 spots to number 21. NC State ranked for the first time this year, 19-5. Maybe the ACC is not as bad as we think. I just feel like it's a bunch of mediocre teams. Creighton, 15-8, up 3 spots to 23. Rutgers, so the third Big Ten team gets in now after having one team ranked the last few weeks. They move up to number 24, and San Diego State falls all the way to 25, 18-5, and that Mountain West is better than we think. Falling out, Florida Atlantic, Clemson, who's leading the ACC, or at least was. So we'll take a look at that conference here in a little bit. And Auburn drop out. You know, I just don't think that I don't know who the Big 12 is the best league to me. They're not going to get the most bids, but I still think they're the best league in the country. So, you know, some of the scores that we've seen recently since this poll came out, just to kind of get us up to date. That was Sunday. Houston will go to Mondays. Kansas had beaten Texas, so you'll see some changes in the pool based on that result. Most likely 88-80. This was a Monday. Miami rolls over Duke. So Miami trying to prove that maybe they're better than people think. And Duke starting to show some wear and tear under Coach first-year coach John Shire replacing the legend of Coach K. NC State, after moving into the top 25, loses to Virginia yesterday, 63-50. Maybe a short stay in the top 25 for North Carolina State. We'll see what the rest of the week brings. Marquette, as I mentioned, gets manhandled pretty good, I think, at home. I don't think it was as close as this score, 87-72. UConn trying to right the ship after a few bad weeks. Kansas State beats TCU 82-61 to kind of get themselves with some momentum out there in the Big 12. And Rutgers loses to the aforementioned Indiana Hoosiers, who are really coming on, as I said before. So let's see what we got here. Rick, jewelry's cheaper and onshore than on the ship. They say, here's the thing. All of these jewelry stores have affiliations with the cruise ships. But yes, you can get a deal. They say they'll match. If you find the same thing in a jewelry store that's on the ship, they'll match the price if you bring back a quote or whatever. Again, I have bought Diamonds International Platinum member. Oh, that team is good, but I don't see depth. I don't know where you are for sure. For the Final Four, you need 6-8 deep. Who are we talking about here, Carlos? Help me out. You got to remember. You're a bit behind me, so I don't know who we're talking about. And by the way, you don't have to go much more than 7 or 8 guys if they're the right guys and your team is conditioned well. You can make a pretty good run at the Final Four. Teams have done it in the past. Today's game's a little bit different than maybe years gone by. And you do need to be a little deeper. You certainly need to be more than 6 deep. So I'm not sure that's not deep at all. Clemson leading away. Yeah, we're going to talk into that. Dan, thanks for being with me here tonight. Dan Harris from Let's Talk Sports. Check out Let's Talk Sports this weekend. Lots of Super Bowl coverage. Happy to do a Tom Brady retrospective last Sunday morning, I guess. That was a lot of fun to do with some of the guys from the network, Steve Cote and, if I'm saying his name right, Dan, Nick Bodkins and Tanner. We had a lot of fun looking back at Tom Brady's career and some of our reminiscing of it. And also a new debate show with Tease Ashton. We had a lot of fun. Carlos and I did, of course I cleaned the floor with him, but no, it wasn't that. It was a lot of fun. So check that out on Mondays, I think, going forward. And sorry for the glitches at the top, guys. I figured out, again, user error. That's, as I tell my people when they have technical issues work-wise, check in the mirror first before you call it IT, right? We're going to go around the conferences. Let me see if there's any. Is there any big news we want to chat about? 24 Rutgers loses their number one forward, Mag, to a knee injury for the rest of the year as they lost to Indiana the other night, so that won't be good. The Minnesota-Illinois game, I believe, scheduled for tonight has been postponed due to COVID. Yes, we still see some postponements due to COVID, unfortunately. Colorado State, there was some very poor taste Russia chants to a Ukrainian player on who were they playing the other night? The Ukrainian guard Max Shugla, who plays for how come you don't tell me who they're playing for? Who the heck were they playing? Don't you hate this? Utah State's Utah State's right there in the first line. Keith, Jesus, Utah State and Ukrainian guard Max Shugla. Shulga. The fans chanting Russia, Russia, Russia. That's not, there's a lot of things. you can do. That's in very poor taste. And I don't get offended. I'm not offended, but it's not cool, guys. Just, figure it out. What else? Jim Boeheim. We're going to talk more about coaches. I'll wait until the time we talk about the coaches. But Jim Boeheim's got himself in the news again. We'll talk about it in the coaches' corner probably. Couple of really antagonistic press conferences recently, which is kind of Jim Boeheim's MO. But one was when one of his players didn't show up for a game, didn't appear to the game, and it was a planned absence. The player was off. And that was the first question that was asked, which, again, you would think in today's age, when a player doesn't show up, people think the worst. They want to know what's the deal. And Boeheim took exception that was the most important question that they had. I believe it was a student reporter, by the way. And he pretty much chastised this poor kid. If there's anybody with a bad attitude, he talked about the kid having a bad attitude. If there's anybody with a bad attitude, it's Jim Boeheim. He's a great coach, but a very surly guy. And he had a run in with a reporter at a press conference a week before, I think after the Virginia loss, after they'd lost a couple of leads in the same week and blown games, and he was asked about their inability to close out games, and he just walks out. That's supposed to be a guy setting an example for young men, and this, that's no way to do it, Jim. So we'll talk about that. There was plans for he had a retirement plan in place. He says it's in his hands when he'll retire. He's 78 years old. The team hasn't been any good for a long time. I think they made again out of like a 12 or 13 seed back in 2015, I'll say, maybe even 16. They did make a run, deep run in the tournament, but his teams have not been good for quite some time. And it's recruiting, as we've talked about here. Joe Girard's a nice player out of Glens Falls here locally, but he can't be the number one player on a Power 5 conference team. He just can't be. What do we got here? Northeast Streaming Sports is with us tonight again. As you know, we're live on Northeast Streaming Sports as well as TGI Sports Talk, and you can catch all of our shows on Northeast Streaming Sports and catch Mac and Jack with their show Thursdays. I think it's now Thursdays through Sunday, right? And I'll have appearances on there. The next couple of weeks will be iffy if you're still listening back, or Linda. Don't forget, I'm away the next 2 Fridays and Sundays, so you can send me the invites and I'll get on if I can. It's going to be hit and miss. But check out Northeast Streaming Sports, guys. As I say, go to Let's Talk Sport. I'm sorry, TGI Sports Talk. Like and share the page. Go to Northeast Streaming Sports. Like and share the pages. And go to Let's Talk Sports and do the same thing. Guys, like and share and follow. Everybody gets out there and shares all of our show, all of our pages. We'll grow. And we are growing. We're approaching 2,000 followers now, and I'm excited about that number. So welcome to Mac or Linda, whoever's with us tonight. And I appreciate the kind words. So we'll talk more about Jim Boeheim as we go forward. Syracuse they had a succession plan in place around 2015 when Mike Hopkins, Boeheim's number one assistant for many years, was going to assume the mantle when Boeheim walked away. And the plan was, I believe, for 2 years then. Then the 2 years came, and Boeheim said, well, maybe I'll stay a little longer. And Mike Hopkins went to Washington, where he started out pretty good, and now he's petered out. The program's petered out, and it might be a little ways time before Mike Hopkins is going to be mentioned for a Division I job again, power conference job anyway. So we'll see how that goes. What else is going on in the news of college basketball that we should be aware of here? Wrong mouse. talked about all that. Indiana's playing really well. Let's jump around these conferences a little bit. I want to jump around the different, actually, we'll do. I'm going to go around the conferences. Then we're going to get into bracketology a little bit. So let's jump around. The smaller leagues, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about. We can get into any topics you want, any leagues you want. Drop a note in the comments and we'll do that. We'll pick it apart, but we're going to concentrate on some of the better leagues. And again, no offense to anybody in the smaller leagues. I'll talk quickly about them. The Atlantic Sun Conference, Liberty at 10-2, tied with Kennesaw State at 10-2. This is going to be a one-bid league, so one of those two teams most likely, barring a big upset. Eastern Kentucky, for instance, could throw something out there. Stetson's been a big postseason threat in that conference through the years. So is Lipscomb. I mean, but they're going to be a one-bid league. The American East, also one-bid league, led by Vermont right now. Probably Vermont will be the favorite here, although UMass Lowell is playing very well. 20-6 overall, 7-4 in a conference. Locally here, the Great Danes of Albany go to 1-9, 6-19 overall. We talked about Coach Killings probably on his way out after having assault charges filed against him from an incident last season when he put his hands on a kid, was suspended for several games by the university. Now he's facing simple assault charges, and it's just a bad look for the conference, for the program. And I think Coach Killings will probably be heading back to assistant coaching somewhere. In the American Athletic Conference, Houston continues to lead, number 2 in the country, as we said. 10-1 in conference, 22-2 overall. Kelvin Sampson just doing a great job at Houston again. This is a team that's been very strong for the last several years with a Final Four appearance. Mixed into some other strong seasons. But Tulane, don't rule out Tulane and even Temple come tournament time. Tulane 9-3, Temple 8-3. Temple's only 14-10 overall, but they've got a win over Houston this year. So come tournament time, that might be a big thing to take a look at. The Atlantic 10, probably, as I've said a couple times, a one bid league. VCU always very strong in this conference, 9-3, 18-7 overall. I don't see them getting 2 bids unless somebody really gets hot. St. Louis, maybe Dayton. But I think this will be a one bid league this year, and it'll probably come. St. Bonaventure, by the way, speaking about local schools, they're out west here in New York State, has had several decent seasons in a row. Got off to a horrible start this year. They've improved now to 13-11 overall and 7-4 in the conference. Watch out for them in the tournament. Fordham's starting to come back to the pack there, by the way. We talked about Fordham out of New York City, having one of their better seasons in quite some time, but they've fallen back in the pack a little bit. The ACC, which we've talked about a lot, is it good? Is it deep? Are they beating each other up, or is it just a mediocre league? Clemson tied at the top with Pittsburgh. I mean, you could make that. If that was a parlay you took, that these two teams would be tied for first, as we head into February, the second week of February, almost the third week in February soon, you would have made a lot of money. Oh my gosh. I mean, 10-3, 18-6 overall for Clemson. Pittsburgh 17-7 overall. Jeff Capel doing a remarkable job. He was on the verge of being fired several times here in the last year. He's got them atop the ACC, and remarkably, the 2 top teams in the league record-wise, well, they're tied with Virginia at 10-3, are not in the top 25. But Virginia 10-3, Miami 10-4, NC State will probably fall back. They're now 9-5 after losing the other night, as I mentioned. Duke at 8-5. Wake Forest 8-6. That might be the cut line. Carolina, who under Hubert Davis struggled a lot last year till tournament time, has really straightened things out. they have not straightened things out the way that they did last year come tournament time. They're actually trending the wrong way and could be looking at not going to the tournament. So 2, 4, 6, 7, maybe 8 teams out of the ACC. Some disappointments there. Syracuse, we talked about. They're probably not going to get a bid, and that would be, Mark, only, I think, the third time in Jim Boeheim's 40, almost, I guess, 50-plus year career that he's gone back-to-back seasons without an NCAA bid. Florida State, very disappointing. Virginia Tech, disappointing. Louisville, 1-12 in the league. Kenny Payne was talked up, and I thought this was a great hire by Louisville, getting Kenny Payne, former New York Knicks assistant, the architect of a lot of the one-and-done teams recruiting-wise for John Calipari at Kentucky. He's fallen on his face in his first year here in Louisville, and maybe it's just a building process, but you're at Louisville, you can't be 3-21 for long and keep that job. So anyway, the ACC, we're going to get it. We'll get into Joe Lunardi's bracketology here in just a little bit. Big 12, I talked about. I still think, again, they won't get the most bids probably, but I think they've got the best conference in the country. I really do. Texas, Iowa State, Kansas State, even Baylor, maybe TCU. The injuries are starting to catch up with TCU, but these are all teams that could make deep runs into the tournament. These teams are all a lock. Oklahoma State starting to look like they'll be in. But after that, you got West Virginia 3-7 in the league. Oklahoma 2-8. Texas Tech, who people had high hopes for, 1-9. You can't get in with those types of records in conference. You just can't. The Big East, 5 teams in the top 25, guys, and UConn is the lowest ranked of them. Second lowest. Creighton creeped back in this week. Starting to play better basketball, Creighton is. But Xavier leads this league by a half a game now over Marquette. 2 teams out of the Midwest. 13th ranked Musketeers and the 10th ranked Golden Eagles. Creighton now 9-3. Providence 9-3. Seton Hall resurgent under Shaheen Holloway in his first season, playing really good basketball. They've won 3 in a row in the league. 15-9 overall. Probably going to get a bid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Probably 6 bids for the Big East. Villanova, a big disappointment the first year without Coach Jay Wright. St. John's, a huge disappointment. This could spell the end this season. Without some kind of deep run in the Big East tournament, Mike Anderson could be looking at the door at St. John's. Butler, DePaul, and Georgetown. Speaking of the door, there's no way Patrick Ewing's going to avoid it again. We'll look at some of the coaching situations in just a second. The Big Sky is going to be a 1-bid league. We'll talk more. We're going to get into bracketology in a second. Probably Montana State or Eastern Washington will win that. Big South, same thing. You're probably looking at either Radford or UNC Asheville. The Big Ten, really ridiculed for a lot of the season, has had one team in the top 25 much of the year. That was the number 1 Purdue Boilermakers. This week they had Indiana and Rutgers in. Rutgers probably will fall back out. Plus they lost one of their star players for the season. As I mentioned earlier, they're going to have a hard time staying there, but they'll make the NCAA tournament unless they fall on their face the last couple of weeks here. Purdue, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Northwestern, Illinois, Michigan State should all be in. Maryland's probably going to be on the bubble. We'll look at some of that in just a little bit. Big West, again, 1-bid league. Probably going to be Irvine, the Cal Irvine Anteaters, or the Gauchos, 2 of the best nicknames in college basketball. The Gauchos of UC Santa Barbara. Colonial Athletic Conference, 1 bid. Charleston still has not beat a top 100 team. They're now tied with Hofstra here. They're 22-3 overall, though. Hofstra's 17-8. not going to get a second bid out of here. If Charleston doesn't win the tournament, they're not getting in their conference tournament. They're not getting in the big tournament. Just not. Florida Atlantic, as we said, this is Conference USA. 12-1 in the league, 22-2 overall. Great story this year. Ranked for the first time ever. And I do think that this will be a one bid league. We'll see what Lenardi says. No independence of any consequence. Horizon League, Youngstown moving up from into Division I here in the last couple of years, leading that league at 11-3. But don't count out Milwaukee. Don't count out Oakland, Cleveland State. These are all teams with good postseason history. We're going to get to St. Mary's in a second. St. Mary's got a really good team out there, and we're going to get there in just a second. The Ivy League, again, a one-bid league, Princeton or Yale. Maybe Cornell gets in, but they do have a postseason tournament now. I would foresee Princeton getting in. The Metro Atlantic, the Siena Saints lost 2 in a row here locally. They've fallen now to 3rd in the conference behind Ryder, who's playing really good basketball, 10-3 in the conference. And Iona, coached by Rick Pitino, is 2nd at 9-3. One of those losses, a pretty good beatdown by Iona here in Albany a couple of Fridays ago. The Mid-American Conference will be Kent State or Toledo or Akron or Ball State, all kind of bunched up at the top of that league. Tournament winner, only team going. Same thing in the Mid-Eastern Conference. Maryland Eastern Shore or Howard would be the favorites. Missouri Valley. This is a league that used to be much better. They lost Marshall. They lost a couple other teams. Drake is still a class of this league. I would count on Drake to come out of this post-season tournament. And then the Mountain West, a bit underrated. One team ranked now, but they've got 3 teams, 4 teams, 5 teams that have been ranked at one time or another this year. San Diego State, who leads the league. Nevada, who's a half game behind. Boise State, who just lost and fell out of the top 25 last week. And Utah State and New Mexico, coached by Richard Pitino, only 6-5 in the league now. They've all been ranked. I think they could get 4 teams in out of the Mountain West. 3 teams for sure, 4 teams possible. Northeast Conference, again, Sacred Heart. I just love Sacred Heart. So I'm going to pick Sacred Heart and upset in this tournament. How about that? We'll get into we'll follow the tournaments too. When we get to the conference tournament time, we'll be on the air following all of these tournaments as they happen while we're doing the show. And maybe we'll have some scattered live break-ins as well. Pac-12, UCLA, Arizona, both possibilities for the one line still. USC with a pretty good chance of making the tournament. Utah playing better recently. This was looking like a 2-bid league. It's starting to look like a 4-bid league, the Pac-12, and we'll take a little deeper look at what Lenardi thinks about that in just a second. Colgate really in control of the Patriot League. The Southeast Conference, again, this is the top is good. Alabama's really good, as we know. Texas A&M better than we would have thought. Tennessee really good. Auburn not as good as they've been in the past couple of years under Bruce Pearl. Kentucky starting to fight back, probably on the bubble. We'll take a look at it here shortly. Florida probably on the bubble. Missouri on the bubble. Arkansas on the bubble. So you could be looking anywhere from 3 to 6 or 7 teams out of the Southeast Conference. It's going to be very, very close. And Carlos, I see you have some comments here. I'll get to them in a second, I promise. Southeastern Conference, again, 1-bid league. You're looking at Greensboro, UC Greensboro, I should say, UNC Greensboro, Furman, or Sanford to get that bid. Southland Conference, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi playing really well. Watch out for the Southeastern Louisiana Lions in this conference. Southwestern Athletic Conference, Alcorn State, Southern, Grambling, all contenders for that 1 bid. Summit, Kenny Gifford's favorite, Oral Roberts, 12-0 in the league, 21-4 overall, but they can't buy any love. One is the reason they don't have a lot of quad 1 wins. or quad one losses because they don't play that caliber team. But this is a team that's made some noise in the NCAA tournament in recent years, and this will be a one bid league. But I think you may see Oral Roberts with a decent seed come tournament time. Sun Belt, one bid league, Louisiana or Southern Miss, I would say, would be the favorites here. West Coast Conference, Carlos wants to talk about St. Mary's 10-0 now, 21-4, ranked 15th in the country. Just got ranked for the first time a couple weeks ago. This is a team with a bullet, 12 wins in a row. I said here for the last 3-4 weeks, this team will beat Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference tournament, and they will have a better seed than the overrated Gonzaga Bulldogs this year. Gonzaga's still good, 8-2 in the league, 19-5 overall, 16th in the country, and Timmy's still really good, but their backcourt is not that athletic. They don't play good defense. This team is going to be maybe one and done in the tournament. Maybe they could sneak another bid in between Loyola and BYU, but I doubt it. I think this is a two-bid league. The Western Athletic Conference, one bid league. Utah Valley right now would have to be the favorite. Maybe Stephen F. Austin, who has some tournament gravitas as well. So let's see. I missed some comments here as I was going through these conferences. Well, again, so you talked about, that was Purdue you were talking about earlier. I never did get that. And St. Mary's, listen, a lot of these teams there's not a lot of teams with great depth. There's just not. Part of it is the one and done syndrome where you don't have experience on your bench. That's why, come tournament time, and you're starting to see a swing back to veteran-laden teams being successful in the tournament. And some of these programs are getting away from that one and done model because it's proven to have, it worked for a while for Kentucky. Even Duke was playing that game for a while. Almost everybody was playing that game for a while, but they've started to find that veteran leadership means a lot come March. You get a team with veteran guard play, some athleticism in that backcourt, they're going to go a ways in March. And I think watch out for St. Mary's because, as Carlos pointed out, they're a very good football team. St. Mary's 12 wins in a row, 12-0 in the conference, 12 wins in a row. Enjoy your nickname while you can. Apparently the Dutchman offend people. Come on. How does a Dutchman? Who were the Dutchmen, by the way? Wasn't there a Dutchman near locally here, Rick? I mean, we offended the Dutch. God. Oh, I mean, we have become so. I just don't understand. I mean, I should go through all of these. Let me just pick a random conference. Let's pick a random conference. Well, I'm going to pick one that's not all that well known. Southwestern Athletic Conference. The Braves of Elkhorn State. The Jaguars. The Tigers. Maybe animals should start getting offended that we're using their names. Hornets, Bulldogs, Panthers. This probably wasn't a great example because they're all named the Devils. Can we use the word devil? Doesn't that offend some of you holy rollers? And I'm sorry who I offended there. Commodores. I mean, maybe might be offending ship captains. Crimson Tide. The Aggies. We're going to offend farmers? Razorbacks. Gosh, Rick, thanks for taking me off the frickin' Mahoney will be good. Agreed. Pearl having issues getting players on the right path at Auburn. Well, Bruce Pearl's run afoul of the NCAA in the past. He had a couple of issues, smaller issues, since he's been at Auburn. Bruce Pearl's a good recruiter. Auburn will be at least a contender in the Southeast Conference as long as he's the coach there. And he'll always be walking the fine line between right and wrong. Oh, Union, of course, Union. Thank you, Rick. I don't know why it didn't come to me. And so who's offended by Dutchmen? The Dutch? Come on. Great line from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, by the way. There's got to be, and I bet Rick Sherlock is a Dirty Rotten Scoundrels fan. Steve Martin and Michael Caine. There's a great scene in the movie where Michael Caine's going on a rant about, that the world is. One thing he doesn't like is people that abuse other people and unjustly, portray them unjustly and unfairly, and make fun of them and offend them for no reason. And he says, that's what makes me angry. I hate those people and the Dutch. And I'm butchering it badly, but it's a very funny scene. If you know Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, you know the scene I'm talking about. New York was colonized by the Dutch. Yes, it was. Peter Stuyvesant bought Manhattan Island from the Indians for a bag of seeds. I don't remember the whole story, but basically he did swindle the Indians out of Manhattan. Well, there was a lot of that at the time. Of course, so we should pay reparations probably for that now. I mean, any relatives of Peter Stuyvesant probably should pay for that by forfeiting their homes and their fortunes, I think. I'm being sarcastic. You like the Eagles, who they're offending. I'm offended by, I don't know what I'm offended by. Bible thumper works, okay. Again, everybody is entitled to their beliefs, okay? And I will ridicule no one except for Kyrie Irving, which watch me on Robert Butler's show, Sports Scopes. Right after we end this show, I'll jump over there for the 8:30, 30-minute show. Robert will probably make my head explode as he's going to make me talk about flat earther Kyrie Irving. Good riddance to him, right? Bracketology, since we're on this topic. Where are we? Got to get to my bracketology. Again, what we do here in this segment is we look at Joe Lunardi's Bubble Watch. His 4 number ones, by the way, before we go there. Right now, again, are Purdue and Alabama, which are the same as last week. Houston, which was there last week. And Arizona has ascended to the one line, I think, replacing Tennessee in Joe Lunardi's rankings. Last 4 buys. So the last 4 that do not need to play in the first 4. West Virginia, I don't see it. You're 3-7 in the conference. Joe, why doesn't that matter? USC, too low. USC's had a good year in the Pac-12. Kentucky, I'm okay there. Arkansas, I'm okay. Last 4 in, so these would be playing in the final. These 4 teams would be playing in the first 4. Boise State, out of that underrated Mountain West, I think that would, and Nevada, out of the same league. Oklahoma State and Memphis. I think that would mean the Mountain West would have 4 teams in. We'll see what Lunardi's saying at the bottom of this. The other teams, the last 4 in, would be Oklahoma State, which I can see. They've at least got a 500 record in the Big 12. And Memphis, out of the AAC. Well, that would give them 3 bids probably. Texas A&M, first 4 out. Texas A&M. Texas A&M has got to be in before West Virginia. Absolutely before West Virginia. The other 3 first 4 out, Florida, Seton Hall, Oregon. Next 4 out, Wisconsin, Utah State. Take that back. Mountain West has probably got 3 teams. Charleston, again, no top 100 wins. And Penn State would be the last of the 8th team out, let's just say. As far as conference breakdown, Big Ten, 8 teams. and he's got Penn State out. So that means, where are we? Let's scroll up here. So who's he got in? Because I can't go through his bracket. It's too hard to go through it. Alphabetical order, Keith. Find them. Purdue, Indiana, Rutgers, Iowa, Michigan, Northwestern, Illinois, Michigan State, Maryland, and Wisconsin. All in. Wisconsin with a 5-7 record in the Big Ten. 13-9 overall. Got to be better teams than that out there. Jesus, Joe. Big 12, 8 teams. He's got 8 teams in from the Big 12. So you got some, again, I do believe this is a really good conference. Texas, Iowa State, Kansas State, Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. 3-7, 14-9. How does what? Again, I know they've got some good wins. Oh man, I just don't get it. ACC with 7. ACC with 7. That's got to be Clemson, Pittsburgh, Virginia, Miami, North Carolina State. They must have Duke in. And probably North Carolina. Wake Forest and North Carolina. I think that last bid. Or it could be Duke. Duke, Wake Forest, and North Carolina. 3 teams that have been staples in the ACC through the years, maybe battling for one spot in the NCAA tournament. Wow. SEC with 6. Well, he's got Kentucky on the cut line, so that's got to be the last team in. Let's see. No, yeah, and he's got 6 for the Southeast Conference, and Texas A&M isn't one of them. Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, Kentucky, Florida, I'm going to say, are his picks. But Texas A&M, 17-7 overall, 9-2 in the league, a very good league, can't get in. I got some problem with Lenardi's bracketology right now. Better get better. Big East, 5. Probably makes sense. We know it's Xavier, Creighton, Marquette. Providence. I say there's 6. Seton Hall's got to be in. Some of the teams we talked about, he doesn't even have Seton Hall on his first 8 out. Maybe he did. Maybe I missed it. But still, they got him out. He's got him out with... They're 8-5 in the Big East, which isn't a bad conference, but he's got the 3-7 Mountaineers in. Mountain West does have 4 without Utah State. That's interesting. Let's see. That's going to be San Diego State, Nevada, Utah State, New Mexico. So New Mexico at 6-5 in the conference gets in before Utah State, 8-3 in the conference, both 19-5. Again, I know he's taken more into consideration than the simple look I'm doing. Pac-12 with 3. I think they should have 4. I'm guessing he's leaving Utah out. The American with 2. And that's funny. So he's got Tulane out and Memphis in. And then the WAC, I'm not the WAC, but the WCC that we just talked about, Gonzaga and St. Mary's. The rest of them are 1-bid leagues. Let me get to your comments here. Yeah, he doesn't get any respect, Kyrie, nor should he, because he's a bozo. 8 teams out of the Big 10 and the Big 12. The Big 10 I get. Maybe they're not as good as they've been in the past as far as Purdue's great. Indiana's playing great basketball. Don't sleep on Indiana come March. Basement Bob. It'd be funny if Basement Bob showed up on the show one day. Well, I'm not sure what the command man means, whether they should have more or should have less. You can't put 3 and 7 teams in the NCAA tournament. Something's got to change. Mid-level conference have at least 5-ish teams aside from conference winners. Well, that's a little. What does that mean? I'm not sure what that means. So mid-level conferences. Who's a mid-level conference? I mean, what are you talking about? The Midwest, Mountain West? So you're not talking about the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC, and the Big East. Those teams aren't going to get 5 teams in. They should get. There should be more multiple bid conferences. Rather than put West Virginia in there at 3 and 7 in your conference, you've earned nothing if you can't play 500 in your own conference. I mean, that plays right into who's our SEC elitist, John DeLon, and the participation trophy syndrome. Let's not let these guys in at 3 and 7 in their league. Come on. UConn is in it right now, Rick. They're probably a 5 seed, probably maybe a 6 seed. We'll see. Let's see where Lenardi's got them. I can check that quick. Hold on. I got his bracket right here. Let's see what he's got. They're definitely one of the teams. I can tell you now. They are a 5th seed, and right now he's got them playing here in Albany, Rick. If you're interested, I'm still considering going. I think it's a Friday, Sunday deal in Albany, I think. Right now he's got, these are some nice matchups too, I think. UConn versus Oral Roberts, 5 against 12. Kansas State against Hofstra, 4 against 13. Where else? Come on, Albany, where are you? I don't like this pod system where you can't even find where the hell these teams are playing. Where's the rest of that? Where is the rest of that bracket? Albany, Indiana, and Drake, 5 against 12. Gonzaga against Furman, 4 against the 13. I think this is an interesting, if this were to hold up, which it won't, that's an interesting set of games to be played here in Albany. There's John DeLon. Speak of the devil, I know you stand by your participation trophy. You think I didn't know you're out there. I found you, and I goaded you into making a comment. Listen, your comment stands when it comes to college basketball, and you're letting teams that are 3 and 7 into the NCAA tournament. That's not what will happen in football. In football, theoretically, you're going to have the 12 best teams in the nation play. That's okay. That's not participation. Well, I shouldn't say there are 12 best teams in the country. Yeah, well, theoretically, they will be. Maybe all but one of them. It's a far different thing. So I don't see any hypocrisy on my side saying that this is a participation trophy syndrome. I think it's more of a we gotta reward these power conferences with 8 and 9 seeds and seeds that don't belong in there. They don't deserve. That shouldn't belong. They don't deserve it. Okay. I get your comment now. But not 5 teams. I mean, there's very few of these mid-level conferences, mid-majors we call them, by the way, not mid-level. But I know what you mean. Not 5 or 6 teams from. I can't think of a mid-major conference that ought to have 5 teams. There are some one-bid leagues that maybe they should get 2 when their regular season winners knocked out. I don't even like the fact that they play conference tournaments in the regular season winner who's worked all year to make it to the NCAA tournament gets knocked out on one bad game on a Friday, a Saturday, or Sunday playing in their conference tournament. You can't, Carlos, I can't find 5 teams in the Atlantic 10 or the Atlantic Sun or the MAC. I just can't. But I understand your point. Maybe more should get in there. I like your new avatar there, John DeLong. It's exactly how I pictured you, actually. I'm sorry. Do you feel like you summoned the devil? I do kind of feel like you're like Rumpelstiltskin. Mention your name and there you are. Should be a big Amsterdam fan base for these games. There would be if UConn's in town, right? With Andre Jackson starting at UConn from Amsterdam, New York. Yeah, absolutely. And his brother's playing well at Albany, and unfortunately, Albany State's terrible. The basketball tournament would be much better if they trimmed down to 16 teams and played the best of 3 series to advance. It takes a lot of the. To me, the winner go home part of the tournament is what is alluring to me. I don't want to play best of 3. You play best of 3, you eliminate all chance for Cinderellas. You really do. And, at the end of the day, you normally end up with the best teams in the Final Four. Now, because what happens is, and it'll happen in the football too, John, by the way, if you want to see an upset, you better see it in the first round because the good teams get better as the tournaments go on. You won't have a chance to beat these teams once they get into the quarters or the semifinals. That's what you normally see. Yes, you'll have an 11 seed sneak in every now and again. We had a 12 seed sneak into the Final Four, but it's not the norm. But I don't want to see 2 out of 3. Nobody wants to watch that. You're fine, Carlos. I knew it. I figured out what you meant after a while. No more TP because of COVID. No more TP. What's TP? Yeah. The acronyms lost me. Sorry, but you can't be champ because someone hit a half-court shot that his time expired. Just doesn't fly with you. Don't put yourself in a position. If you're that superior a team, you shouldn't be in a position to be getting beat by a half-court shot as time expires, John. One and done. That's what makes this tournament exciting. You will take all the luster out of the NCAA tournament, basketball tournament, if you were to put in something like 16 teams and 2 out of 3s. Nobody's going to want to watch. Nobody. Their viewership will plummet because the first 2 days of that tournament are 2 of the most exciting days in sports. They just are, especially if you're a gambler. Examples. We'll look at the A10. We'll take a quick look. I cannot make a case. I just said St. Louis was a possibility if they were to upset VCU, right? But by the way, John, the only way your LSU Tigers ever make the NCAA tournament is if they keep it at 64. Well, look, in the A10, I can make a case, as I said, for 3 teams. VCU, St. Louis, and Dayton. If you're going to take a 3-7 West Virginia, a 5-7 Wisconsin, then I'll make a case for the 8-3 Billikens, the 8-4 Flyers, but that's probably as far as I can go. Maybe St. Bonaventure. If they were to win, I could take the other 3 teams. So again, I can't get the 5 or 6 teams in this conference ever. Because that would mean I'm letting Duquesne in. No. Montana State is going strong. They are. I think I mentioned them a little bit earlier, didn't I? Oh, where are they playing these days? I can't find them. I want to get into some football here in a little bit before we get done for the day, so we'll talk. You would watch Carlos. See, sorry for that insult, John. You guys are both SEC elitists, though, so I guess it's all right if I interchange your names. And that's not an actual picture, you right? That is in your avatar. You'd watch, but the majority of the people that watch now, they would lose. I would hazard to guess, if you reduce, first of all, you'd lose a lot of games and a lot of TV time, a lot of advertising money. So they're never going backwards. But you'd lose the casual fan. The casual fan won't care. And that's what they need. And TV and money does talk, unfortunately. And those first 2 days of the tournament, and again, if you don't appreciate those first 2 days in the tournament, John, it's certainly you're right. But those first 2 days of the NCAA tournament are tremendous days of basketball, wall to wall, noon to midnight, nothing but NCAA basketball. And it's a lot of fun. And if you've never been to a first round pod, go. Because that first day, that's why I'd love to get to Albany, to go to games and watch games from 12 until midnight and see some really, really good basketball and exciting basketball, and the chance to see Cinderella knock off a higher seed. It's part of the allure of the tournament. Iona, Ryder, and Siena. So I'll give you 3 teams in the MAC. Siena's played very well. I know Siena very well. We're right here, in the heart of where they play. I really wanted to get to that Iona-Siena game, and I couldn't. I had a previous dinner engagement. But I can't go any deeper than that. What do you got, John? It's obvious they have a lot of work to do. They've had a lot of work to do since, gosh, I forget their last coach, who was, he might be in prison now for all I know, because the FBI was after him. I can't remember the guy's name now, before McMahon, and I'm not sure he's the right coach either. But LSU's never been able to get over the hump. They had some really good teams under Dale Brown. They had some decent teams when Shaq was there, but Jesus, if you're not going to win, if you're not getting the Final Fours with Shaq on your team, when are you getting the Final Fours? Dale Brown got them to a Final Four. I think they lost to Indiana, if I remember. Bobby Knight punching the telephone out. There's a few mid-majors that need to play better competition. Outside of their conference, I agree. But the problem is, Carlos, again, you can't blame the mid-majors, because teams won't play them. Right? And if they play them, they want to play them on their home court only. They won't give them a home and home. So again, it's not the mid-majors' fault. It's the Power 5 conferences who won't schedule them. It happened here at Siena. I saw it happen when Mike Dean was here. And if you don't remember Mike Dean, Mike Dean came here from being an assistant at Michigan State, coached at Potsdam, played ball at Potsdam, married a girl from Amsterdam, actually, and coached Siena to some great heights, put him in the the NCAA tournament and won 2 games. Became big when the NIT was still good. They went to an NIT Final Four. And I just lost my train of thought here. What was it? But the problem was they were playing teams like Pitt when Pitt was really good in the regular season. And they nearly beat them on their home floor, on Pittsburgh's home floor, and teams stopped scheduling them. Siena couldn't get these Power 5 conferences to schedule them anymore. It's their fault. You need to change it to my hand-drawn pick of Beavis. I met Mike Judge. Mike Judge is awesome, by the way. I do know Mike Judge. He did Beavis and Butthead. He did King of the Hill. Some great stuff. King of the Hill is a great show. I wasn't a big fan of Beavis and Butthead, but King of the Hill I liked a lot. You met him in a restaurant, and he drew a pic of Beavis on a napkin. That's pretty cool. Will Wade, thank you very much. Will Wade. How fast we forget those on their way to federal prison. There's a rumor around Baton Rouge that former LSU b-ball coach Dale Brown was the one who ratted out Will. And what would be his... That's interesting. That's not a rumor I've heard. And he must be 90. How old is he? He's got to be 90 years old now, Dale Brown, no? And Dale Brown, by the way, really good college basketball coach. What was his... And now I wanted to move on to some football, and we will in about 4 minutes. But John, what would be Dale Brown's motive for ratting Will Wade out? And somebody else would have done it anyway, by the way. This guy was so dirty. So LSU won't name the court after Dale. That's interesting. I'm really interested in what would be his motive to do that. Scott Colby, how are you, buddy? Good to have you with us from TGI. Or where are you from? Let's Talk Sports. I got too many things to plug here. Who's the mid-major you like to make the deepest run in the NCAA tournament? I'll tell you, Kenny Gifford has talked about a couple times about Oral Roberts. I like Oral Roberts a lot. If I was going to look at another team mid-major wise to make a deep run, and we say deep, I mean Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8, right? That's about, because it's impossible to say, oh, this is a 12 seed. It's going to go to the NCAA Final Four. Well, interesting enough, Houston would be a mid-major, so they could get to the Final Four, but I don't think that's in the spirit of your question, right? Houston's a major basketball program. That's not a mid-major program. As I scroll through here quickly, I'm inclined to go with Kenny's Oral Roberts team, playing really, really good basketball out west. Best team in Oklahoma, Oral Roberts. And if I was going to go with somebody else, it would be St. Mary's. St. Mary's playing some great basketball, as we talked about earlier in the show, Scott. They're going to beat Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference tournament, I'll tell you right now, and they will be a higher seed. I can see Gonzaga being a top 4. If they keep winning and win out through the tournament, I can see them in top 3 seed. So that's kind of what I was thinking. Dale Brown is 83. Boy, it feels like you got to be older. I'm 63. I was watching him. I guess he could have been in his 40s. I got to know now. This is the world we live in, right? Because of everything being at our fingertips, I've got to look like right now. Of course, when I put in Dale Brown, the first thing I get is Dale Brown, the author of the Da Vinci Code. All right, Dale Brown, how old are you? Sportsreference.com. By the way, the best reference thing you can use is on the internet. Dale Brown is, let's see how close you are, buddy. I got to do math. 88. He'll be 88 this year. He's 87 years old right now. What are my thoughts on UConn this year? It's funny, we talked a lot about UConn in the last few weeks, Scott. They played really good basketball early in the year. Danny Hurley's a great coach. They hit a rough patch where they were number 2 in the country, and they fell almost out. Last week they had a nice win over Marquette. I think it wasn't even as close as the 17 or so they won by. I watch a lot of that game. They're very good. I think they're pretty deep. They've got some really good guard play. We talked about Andre Jackson. God, now he lost his name. Andre Jackson, right, Rick? From Amsterdam, New York, just down the road from us, near our alma mater of Perth. He's a really good guard, good defensive player. an exciting player, and they've got a lot of that type of kids on the team. I think they get this ship righted. I think they win the Big East tournament. I think they are top 3 seed in the tournament, and I think they could make a decent run here. They started to turn the corner. They had a swoon similar to Kansas, probably worse than Kansas, and now they're just starting to right the ship here. With the exception of a couple years under John Brady, LSU basketball has been pretty awful since Dale retired. Agreed. I would agree. And the rumor says Dale did it because he didn't want Wade outdoing him before anyone. You're talking about anyone outdoing? Well, that'd be pretty freaking. That'd be awful. If that's a fact, man, I lose all kinds of respect for Dale Brown. Dale Brown was a really good coach. Took them to the tournament year after year for a lot of years. Went to a Final Four. Rumored, by the way, many times to be the next coach of the UCLA Bruins when the Bruins were still, the premier job in the country. There was talk of him not really replacing Wooden out of the gate, but down the road, a few coaches removed, Dale Brown's name came up like year in and year out. Where did Dale Brown? I got it right in front of me, so this will be a cheating. He went to Minot State, which I have no idea where that is, but I win a prize because I got it right in front of me on the. That's why this is the best reference. You ever need reference material for sports? You got to go because for basketball, football, you got to go to sportsreferences.com. It's the best site on the internet. What do you got here, John? I do find it difficult to believe Dale because Dale has a reputation. He does have a great reputation within college basketball, and I think outside of college basketball. So it just seems like a really, what's the word I'm looking for? Petty thing to do, And again, especially since Will Wade was going to get nailed anyway, why would he do it? So it's in North Dakota. Where are you, Scott? How do you know that? You're from Mass, right? You're I almost said it. All right. You know what? I'm leaving tomorrow. Thank you, Scott. I win a vacation to the Caribbean. Awesome. All expenses paid by me long ago. Dale's a guy that paid for the plane ticket for one of his players. Yeah, that's a famous story, man. Yeah, he did. I mean, that again, when I talk about NIL and kids should not be getting paid and whatnot, I'm not saying that kids with no money shouldn't be able to get trips home to their grandma's funeral or their mother's funeral or, a pizza here and there. Some of the things the NCAA have investigated over the years, Dale Brown gets in trouble for sending a kid home to a funeral, and Will Wade is down there running around like a freaking gangster. I love Sports Reference, right? The best freaking thing, Scott. Let's jump into some college. And again, I'll come back here real quick. I had a couple notes I want to talk about on football before we wrap it up. We got only about 10 minutes. Tommy Rees going to Alabama to be the offensive coordinator. A lot of questions about this. Why would Nick Saban bring him in there? Because he's, Notre Dame's offense has been nothing to write home about. Well, first of all, you got and John, I know you'll agree with this. You got a totally different caliber of player at Alabama than you do at Notre Dame. You just do. Notre Dame's got a great football history, but right now you got a better caliber of player, especially quarterbacks at Alabama. I think Tommy Rees will flourish at Alabama, and every head coach or every offensive coordinator there hired since 2014 has gone on to an NFL or a college head coaching job, except Bill O'Brien, who is now the offensive coordinator for Bill Belichick. Our boy Lane Kiffin, Scarsazian, what's the guy's name? Loxley. Well, he was the offensive coordinator. Brian Dable. Brian Dable was one of Nick's OCs. So I think Tommy Rees, this is a good stepping stone for him. If he wants to get a head coaching job at a decent school, this is a good move for Tommy Rees. And I think it's a good move for Alabama. Because they're going to run this Saban system. They're not going to. Tommy Rees isn't bringing his offensive system with him. It's ridiculous to think that, right? Charlie Baker will rectify. Oh, yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not so sure. I mean, to me, it might be a step in the right direction, but Charlie Baker's got to show me that he's a tough guy if he's going to fix what's wrong with the NCAA. He can't do worse than we've had there recently, though. Mike Emmert was not a strong leader. And before him, I want to say Miles. What was his name? Miles Brand. He was the president of Indiana who fired Bobby Knight. He was the previous president. He sucked too. But we should persecute Jim Harbaugh for buying hamburgers for his players mostly because I hate Jim. Well, at least you're honest. I've been saying the same exact thing. Everyone that casts doubt on Rees hired Alabama, he'll do fine there. As I said, Jen, they talk about he's not bringing his system with him. It's going to be Saban's system. He's going to flourish, and he's going to be a head coach somewhere. And it's a great move for Tommy Rees. It's a no-brainer. I don't see coordinators at Notre Dame getting jobs right and left around the country, except for one that got the head coaching job when your boy Kelly left. Obviously, he got the home job. It's a good move for him. How many more years? What is he? 70. Here we go with the age game again. I'm going to say he's 71. He's the same age as, because I think he's the same age as, am I spelling his name wrong? Where are you, Nick Saban? It's a good way to spend my last 10 minutes. I can't find him. The internet has lost all track of Nick Saban. You know why? Because I was in college basketball. That's why. Let's see how close I am. Wikipedia, my other favorite thing. I'm going to change some of this information. I'll make him 39 here in a second. He's 71 years old. Check that out. I'm doing pretty good tonight. I could see him coaching deep into his 70s here. I mean, Bobby Bowden coach who's 78. And again, maybe these guys went a little too long, right? Bowden and Paterno had his own issues, but he wasn't a good coach by the end. But I can see Nick Saban going another 4 or 5 years anyway. And it's going to be interesting. Guys like Tommy Rees, you get yourself in there and get yourself ingrained. If he's there 4 years and Nick Saban steps down and he does a tremendous job, who knows? Notre Dame has a talent problem, not a coaching problem. I think I said that, though. Well, they might have a coaching problem in Freeman. No, I think Freeman's a decent coach. I think he's a decent coach. He righted the ship. This could have been a really bad year this year, and he righted the ship pretty well. I think he did well. Recruiting at Notre Dame is always going to be harder. It's certainly harder than it used to be. I mean, even though the fact that they've lowered their academic standards still doesn't help them, because now, just because you're going to Notre Dame and you're going to be on TV all the time, which was a big lure for kids, you'll be on TV no matter where you go. You go to Vanderbilt, you'll be on TV every week. 71. Yeah, I can see 4 or 5 more years. I think Saban's gearing up for one final run. You think so? Going back to his murder ball roots, he'll retire in 25 or 26. Well, that'd be, what would that be? I can't do math very well. So 3 or 4 years instead of 4 or 5 that I said. Yeah, I think I think you're right. I think 3, 4. I say 4 years, 5 at the outside. Do I see the days of Notre Dame as a power? I don't see them. Listen, they need to join a conference. They're going to have to join a conference, Scott. They're not going to be able to survive with the landscape the way that it is, and the Big Ten Super Conference, the SEC Super Conference, probably more changes to the landscape coming. It's going to be very hard for them to compete. Standing out there all alone on an island, they're going to have trouble scheduling games that are good enough. I mean, their schedule on an off year could be very poor. It was fairly poor the last few years because the Stanfords are down, Navy's down, Boston College is down. These teams that they play year in and year out, they're on downward trends, and it's not good for UCLA. And I think they're going to need a league at some point here. Main problem with Freeman is hire is they had Luke Fickell right there, and Fickell likely would have crawled to. You think so? I don't. Well, yes. I mean, he went to Wisconsin. I guess he would have gone to Notre Dame. But they wanted to keep the cohesiveness in the program, and there's something to be said for that. And I guess we're not going to know for a number of years. But again, I think he did a commendable job this year with some very trying circumstances to start the season. I don't think it's possible to win a national championship at Notre Dame unless they allow entrance exemptions for football players, which they're probably never going to do, by the way. As I said, they've lowered their standards as it is, and I don't see them doing that. They're still a very high. They value their position as a institution of higher learning as much as they do as football. I think, again, they need to join a conference, and they can maintain that. But the problem is going to be maintaining it for a long time. Notre Dame's going to have peaks and valleys. Stanfords of the world are going to have peaks and valleys. You can get good for a while, but you can't maintain it for 2 decades because the standards are too high to keep funneling really good football players in there who also are brainiacs. Right? It's going to be very tough. Very tough. One last thing, and I'm not going to talk about this very long. The Iowa situation with Brian Ferentz getting it. First of all, he should have fallen on his sword and quit. This is one of the worst offenses in college football. Cade McNamara coming in there or not. Worst offenses in football. Somehow Kirk Ferentz, who's stuck in the dark ages and has been there forever, good guy, good coach, but they're never going to change. They're never going to get over the top because their offense is in the dark ages. So Ferentz gets himself a new 3 or 4 year contract extension, a big one. And his son, rather than fall on his sword and he'd take a demotion back to the offensive line coach or quit altogether, is staying under the weird circumstances that if he doesn't average 25 points a game next year, he'll be fired come the next summer. And look at Kirk Ferentz should have ended this. This is nepotism probably at its worst. He sees what the product his son is putting out, and he won't do anything about it because he's his son. I mean, we've had other situations like this. Jeff Bowden, the offensive coordinator at Florida State, way too long for Bobby Bowden near the end, holding on to him for dear life, trying to keep him, in a job. Jay Paterno at Penn State, the quarterback coach for the longest time. Mike Stoops getting Bob Stoops actually forcing current head coach Venable to the side to bring his brother Mike back to be defensive coordinator. We've seen this type of stuff a lot of time. They need to go full. I agree. That'd be good for both parties. Actually, where they fit best is the Big Ten, but it's probably not going to happen unless the Big Ten is going to expand. If the Big Ten is going to add 4 more teams, then Notre Dame would be a fit there because they play the teams out west They play USC. They play UCLA now and again. They could play Stanford if Stanford were to come in. They already play a lot of the Big Ten teams like Purdue. They've had a long series at different times with Michigan. I think they'd fit in the Big Ten perfectly, but they need to go somewhere, and it would help the ACC as well. As you mentioned before, that when Urban Meyer did a preliminary interview with Notre Dame years ago, he asked how. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, well, that tells you all you need. I think that tells you a lot about Notre Dame, and I think it tells you a lot about Urban Meyer as well. You know, you get what you pay for here. So, all right, guys. Come, I got no music. We're gonna wrap it up, guys. We've had a pretty lively round tonight. We got into the basketball pretty good with you guys. Please. I'm on vacation. I want a vacation in the. Let me get rid of this banner. It's in my way. I can't. I'll just leave it. I want a vacation tonight, as you know. No, I didn't want it tonight. I'm on my way. I'll be in the Caribbean the next Wednesday. But then following Wednesday, we'll be back. I'll do something from the show on Wednesday. No idea what time it will be. Not likely to be 7 o'clock at night. So we'll do that. We'll do some stuff Friday. We'll do some kind of check-in. Sunday for the stream of consciousness. We'll do something Super Bowl Sunday at a minimum. And I'll post some stuff on TGI Sports Talk and share it so you guys know what we're going to be doing. Now, single TGI Sports Talk right here at Northeast Streaming Sports, and Let's Talk Sports. Let's have a great, great college sports weekend. Catch you later, guys. Never drink too much. What's too much? See you later, guys. Bye-bye.